I'm going to present you Ola Rollen, the Chief Executive Officer and President of Hexagon. Welcome, Ola Rollen.
Thank you so much for having me.
I've been hearing that you've been talking about autonomous age. Where do you see the autonomous age and sustainable future is connected, and what is the role of innovation in that?
Well, it's a complicated connect, but you could say it's mankind that creates a lot of fascinating things on this planet, but it's also mankind that destroys the planet in the process of doing so. So the more automated workflows we can create in literally any industry, the less we pollute, the less we destroy the planet that we've grown to like so much. And you will see this in industrial processes, in transportation, in societies, in cities, and so on. If we can disconnect mankind from these processes, they usually flow much better.
And how do you see the context of geospatial technology in the age of autonomous?
It's super important. If we take CO2 emissions, for example, the major culprits are transportation. And in the geospatial technologies will be enabling autonomous driving, which is a prerequisite to reduce queues and reduce traffic jams and things where we use and consume resources and emit CO2 without really getting anywhere. I don't know if you know that they made a study in the city of London. The average speed 150 years ago was 8 kilometers per hour.
Wow.
And it's still 8 kilometers per hour because you're bumper and everyone is running their engines and it's not very good.
So you're talking about the value of autonomous will actually decongest.
Yeah. Because you will have a coordinated flow of vehicles through, for example, a city center, and you can plan your journey. So maybe the computer will tell you that you leave 2 minutes later than you plan to do. And just by leaving 2 minutes later, you find your automatic slot in a queue model, and you don't need to stop by red lights and so on. That will be automated. So I think it's quite exciting what we can do with the current technology, mixing sensors with geospatial solutions.
Well, a couple of, maybe about 2 years back, you said that AI is still far away, and you gave an example of 10,000 types of images of cat, how to understand the cat's behavior through AI. What's your opinion on AI today?
Oh, sorry, could you repeat the last?
I said a couple of years back, you talked about AI is a little far away from us, and you gave an example of cat, 10,000 different kinds of shapes and moods of cat, and that's the kind of processing we need to capture the right, expression of the cat. So, what do you think in 2 years has changed, or you still hold the same opinion?
Now, I think AI is slowly moving into much more mature technology. AI is not going to solve everything for us, but AI is going to enable us to design smarter systems where AI might take the heavy lifting when it comes to analyzing big data, vast data sheets, and so on. And we see that happening. AI is getting smarter and smarter. So I think we're on the right path.
And how do you see various divisions of Hexagon technology portfolio, right from metrology to public safety to geospatial to geosystems, getting converged into making the smarter planet?
I think what we're focusing on are a few major areas. We think cities could become smarter. More and more people live in cities, and we are queuing a lot, whether it's waiting for food, waiting for deliveries, getting from A to B, and so on. So city life can become much smarter, and that's one priority for Hexagon. And then we look at manufacturing and construction processes, where we believe that we got the tools to make construction processes and manufacturing processes more automatic and smarter. And then finally, we have transportation, which is a problem in its own, where we need to become better at aviation, ground-based transportation, and so on. And we believe we have a role to play in all these applications.
So you talked about digitalization of constructions and manufacturing processes. And in this COVID situation, we are left with no other option but to basically go digital. So where do you see the geospatial role for geospatial technology? Is it going to grow very fast in the recovery model of the economy?
I think the role going forward for geospatial is it's not going to be the traditional geospatial only. It's going to be indoor positioning and navigation. It's going to be detailed maps that computers can read for autonomous cars and autonomous vehicles. I think more and more we are dependent on knowing where things are and how to get there, and that is only ever going to grow. So geospatial is going to shift from being traditional cadastre and so on to be a 3D tool to help us navigate in everyday life.
That's exciting. That's really having a view in the future. Let me come back to you with regards to your business in India. What do you think about, I know that you have been traveling to India much before joining Hexagon. And what kind of change you have seen in India in the last 25 years of your travel? And what kind of market opportunity do you see for Hexagon in India?
India is always, it's so fascinating to visit India. And things have always, every time you come back, even though it might be 6 months in between, so many things have changed. And if you compare India, I had the benefit of being very young in the 80s when things took off in Asia. So I've always benchmarked China with India. And India and China are not comparable when it comes to structure and so on, as we all know. But China has seen its growth, and over the past 30 years, it's been unprecedented. I think India still has its opportunities ahead of it, and I think that India will start grow in the next 5 to 10 years, and it's going to be super exciting to watch it grow. I think Indians are going to have a much better quality of life going forward, and I think you're going to have an opportunity to raise poverty and inequality and create maybe a much better society for all, for your people.
So after this, I'll take one more question from my side, then I will take questions from the audience, and I have also one guest who has some questions for you. So having outlined the kind of opportunities for 5-10 years for India in terms of growth, what kind of policy challenges or what kind of ease of doing business you have experienced which actually offers you a challenge in doing business in India?
India is bureaucratic because India is not one country. You have several states. There is a lot of approvals, and very often you got tender processes that are quite cumbersome for a company to participate in. And I think that is one of the great challenges of your leadership and your country, that you need to maintain control of what you do, but at the same time facilitate for change.
Thanks, Ola, for outlining that. If I would like to welcome Girish Kumar, General Girish Kumar, who is the Survey General of India.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. Thank you, Ola. First of all, let me thank you also for your partnership with Survey of India. I have two questions for you. One is that we have been hearing a lot on your content program worldwide. So, do you consider that content program in India on public-private partnership model?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea that we would be happy to entertain if there was a possibility to do it. We have the equipment, we have the resources to deploy a content program throughout India. But I think in India it would be helpful to have a strong partner, i.e. the government, to back it up and use the data. But I would be very positive to a public-private joint venture around the content program. I think the content program is very important for any country because it lays the foundation for all sorts of decisions from roads, railroads, water supply, power lines, and so on. So I think it would be a great investment for India to have access to fresh data on what it actually looks like.
Yeah, thank you. The second question is, why don't you consider India as your manufacturing hub for most of your equipment? Because in India now, we are one of the bigger users. Government of India has already given some concessions for manufacturing in India, Make in India program.
It's a long process. First of all, the Indian market dominates in, maybe not in value, but in volume by Chinese manufacturers. So we don't have a big enough sales volume today to motivate local manufacturing in India. But in sister divisions, we have started manufacturing. So we do manufacture for the automotive industry and so on, the equivalent of total stations for automotive, aerospace, and general manufacturing in Noida. And if we reach that critical threshold, then it would make a lot of sense to set up manufacturing in India. But right now, it's a trade-off between import duties and volume. It's as simple as that.
Thank you so much. We'll look forward for that.
Thank you.
I'm sure you have been keeping an eye on all the reforms which are undertaking currently in the country. And what do you think about one thing which will actually immediately attract you to be in India? What is one thing which will actually expedite or rather attract you to come to India in more aggressive manner?
It's always this catch-22 situation, demand, investment. Sometimes you have to invest to create demand, and sometimes you get demand before you invest. But I think that your country is on the threshold of reaching substantial growth, as I said previously, and that will generate demand. So I think the one thing that I've seen working in many countries is public-private partnerships where you decide to resolve a problem. Let's say it's electricity distribution or something. You want to upgrade the power grid and you invite private enterprises into this venture, and they invest and they also reap the benefits from that investment. And that is a fast track to spur growth and enhance the quality in the country. And we talked about the content program. That's an excellent idea where we and the Indian government could set up a content program that could be used by all states, by all municipalities, by private corporations, and so on.
So basically, talking about the volume and the scale would be something which will attract you significantly.
There is no doubt that India has the size. So it's really about setting some very obtainable, very concrete targets for the investments, what you want to accomplish, and not look too much into the future. Go for something, go for the low-hanging fruit first.
Thank you very much for joining, and I know it's a very busy time for you. Still you found this 30 minutes for us. That's great. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.